Hey everyone, it's Gramps here with the Mechabellum replay. Today's game is all about the fortress. That's right, in this Titan meta, we're going to try and make forts work. Our opponent here is Kitty, little version, and we're playing in the 1900 MR range. Now pretty quickly I decide upon the cost control specialist because it's a specialist I want more practice with, and it has a lot of initial HP. Now looking at my opponent's board, they've taken Quick Supply Spec with a Spider Fang opener. Now this is quite dangerous for us as we're in a bad initial matchup, and the increased supplies from my opponent could lead them to tempoing very quickly and snowballing out of control. Now despite all that, we still want to try and force a headbutt, so we go for a center aggressive deployment in front of our towers. As the round begins, we do see that my opponent has chosen to spend their extra supplies on deploying 2 spiders. Now hopefully we can knock out at least one of the spiders to try and reduce the incoming HP damage just a little bit. Now fortunately we do take out one spider, but we still take over 600 damage in this initial round. At the start of round 2, we have a big decision to make. We need to get out some sort of DPS unit and really try and stop my opponent from snowballing. If we continue taking 600, 800, 1000 HP damage a turn, we'll find ourselves very quickly being taken out of the game. So while we do consider taking extended range Phantom Ray, I'm not running the correct text to make the best use of it, so instead we go for a skip. And now we sit here and we think a little bit. My opponent doesn't have a whole lot of upshoot other than the fangs. And if we're able to take out all the fangs, we'll be able to take out the rest of my opponent's army with the flyer and potentially win the round. So with that in consideration, we go for a double Phoenix deployment, placing one on each side of the tower. I've chosen to place them on the outside and further back to prevent them from getting locked on early and help protect against any future potential flanks. In addition, we go ahead and take the first tower attack enhancement to make up for the lost stats for being cost control. Now it does look like our plan is working out pretty well here. As long as we can take out these last 4 fangs. Yep, it looks like my phoenixes will win this round unopposed. Now, while we're only dealing 400 HP damage, like I mentioned earlier, the important thing here is just putting a stop to my opponent's tempo. At the very least, we bought ourselves a round. Round 3, we're given our first unit drop. Now immediately upon seeing this fortress, I start coming up with a plan in mind. Now I know it doesn't seem like it'll mesh very well right now, but eventually, when all the techs come in, when I finish my unit deployments, I think it'll really start meshing together. So we do go for the fortress pick, and immediately I deploy another one to protect the left side of my army. Now I don't want them too close to the line to prevent any instant locks so I can protect them with future chaff, but I do want them up, ahead enough to where they can protect my hounds and my mustangs. Now looking at my board, I am severely lacking chaff, so we go for a mass deployment and get 2 more crawlers, one behind each tower. My opponent, perhaps overreacting a little bit to the Phoenix drop, has chosen the Phantom Rays and 2 marksman deployments. Now, like I said earlier, currently with the ranges as they are, specifically, the forts outranging all my other ground units, this comp is not looking great, but, it's just a situation where you have to have faith. That initial HP bonus really coming into play here. And now at the start of round 4, we're given quite possibly the best item we could have asked for, the Mustang production line. We immediately recruit a fort and place it here in front of this Phoenix to try and protect it. And we place the Mustang production line on it as well. Now looking at my current board, we are very vulnerable to missiles. If my opponent places a missile here and a missile here, they could potentially wipe out not only a pack of hounds and crawlers, but leave me with only one unit of chaff clear. To help protect them, we're going to put fangs here. I've chosen fangs because in the future I can click shield if I need to protect against any missiles on the line. And as we can see here, this fort is doing a great job screening for these phoenixes, and they're able to rack up plenty of kills here. Round 5. We're given our second unit drop. Now I have an answer to all other units other than the Void Eye, and since it's free as well, we go ahead and take it. We immediately tech energy absorption. Hopefully this should mean that they're much tankier and pretty hard to kill for my opponent. From what I can see from my opponent's board, only the Phantom Rays and maybe the Marksman should be able to take them out. We go ahead and place another fortress to try and screen for this Phoenix, and place the Void Eyes in front. And since we really need to start fixing our range issues, we go ahead and get 2 more Hounds and click range. I put the Hounds further back to act as a second wave of chaff clear, and go ahead and line them up with these units of crawlers. Ideally, I want each stream of chaff to be met by a pack of hounds. You can see the range working a little bit. The difference of 10 isn't quite enough, so a lot of the hounds are still getting targeted early, but particularly the ones we put in the back are, especially the ones we put in the back, they're being protected a little bit. Round 6. We're given a couple interesting options here. I think I pretty quickly choose additional deployment slot. As cost control, we can really make use of these extra deployments. Now I do consider taking charge shot, but I think it's really important here that my forts stay in front and the rest of my units stay behind. So instead, we go for a Phoenix in the middle and get some additional chaff to protect our units. And since we are planning on going for kind of a Hound, Mustang, Phoenix carry, we want to make sure to continue getting levels. And since I noticed that the 10 range really isn't enough to protect my Hounds, we go ahead and get Launcher Overload. That should help the fortresses deal more damage, but more importantly, it's going to reduce their range so they stand further out in front. And now, just to be extra safe, we're going to deploy a Mustang in the back to protect against any potential Wasp flank here. We'll need to get some Hounds in the future here and here to protect the flank as well. We just want to make sure we have all of our avenues covered. Now we can kind of start to see our comp coming together here. Our forts are doing a decent job of protecting our units, and they're able to sit back and do their job. You can really start to see the differences taking these techs are making. That being said, we still take a ton of damage here, I think. probably over 1,000. And now we're in about one-shot range. So at the start of round 7, we're given another fantastic item card, I think, or unit card, Assault Fortress. Now this is going to make our tanks tankier and make them faster and decrease their movement speed, so they'll do a better job of standing out in front of our units. Now it's time to click Mech Rage on the Hounds as well. We really want to start getting them clearing chaff and dishing out damage. Now I had mentioned previously about getting some Hounds to protect against the chaff and fill out our secondary chaff clear wave. So we go ahead and recruit 2 Hounds and put them on the corners here, or rather on the outside of the tower. And since our right tower is pretty relatively protected compared to the left, we go ahead and put a crawler pack here. Now burst has come in from my opponent, but just taking Mech Rage, especially the barrier, I think you'll see a massive difference this round. I mean, already a lot of my units are surviving. There's something important to note here, and why this round is going so much differently for us, so much better for us, is having the barriers is allowing the forts to successfully protect against that initial engagement. By the time the barriers fall, the forts are able to walk forward enough to where the rest of my targets, or rest of my units aren't being targeted. Now we're actually offered additional deployment slot for the 3rd round in a row, but since we're both pretty low on HP, I just want to go for a finishing blow here. So we take the orbital bombardment to try and maybe knock out some of these phantom rays and some of the chaff. Now it's pretty vital that we continue leveling our hounds here. They're kind of our primary carry, if I'm being honest. Although that being said, we have a fairly balanced board where each of their units is fulfilling a role. Since my opponent has orbital offered to them as well, we go ahead and click Energy Shield. And just to make sure some Phoenixes survive, we go ahead and deploy 2 more Phoenixes on the flank. Now, I did consider placing a Mustang here because I am relatively weak in this flank. I feel like this right tower has a lot more weaknesses protected, whereas I did consider briefly, you know, a Wasp flank could get through here, but I figured with 2 units of Phoenixes, both of them being shielded, this tower should, you know, remain relatively safe. Now, at this point, I had clicked End Round, so I saw the double, triple Wasp flank coming in, which did concern me. But yeah, I think it's possible that placing a Phoenix here instead of a Mustang is going to cost me the game here. The Wasps have warped in and now they're gunning straight for that tower. But if we look at our right side of the army here, we've wiped out basically all of my opponent's units. And the Rays are just shooting at crawlers during this tower paralyze. Immediately after ending my paralyze, we get a counter paralyze, which should let us clean up a lot of this remaining army here. That second tower paralyze coming in, we might lose the round, but you know, fortunately with what's left, we shouldn't die here. And actually, it's looking like we might win this one here, with the Mustangs doing a great job wiping out these Wasps. And it looks like just barely we managed to win this round. This was big for us. I honestly thought with the Mustang mistake here, I was going to lose on this round. Not only lose the round, but lose the game. But as you saw, the right side of our army did a fantastic job wiping out most of the targets here, just leaving, I think, a marksman and a couple Phantom Rays. So now, at the start of round 9, I'm getting ready to finish out the game. We're given our third unit drop. Now, I'm considering taking the Saber-Tooth to sell to make the rest of my units stronger, but the Sledgehammer could also just be useful to us. We end up going for the sledges, and we're going to deploy them in column formation along the front. Now we place them in columns, that way they can absorb a burst and not have the whole unit die. And they can act as a little bit of chaff clear. Since this flank is our biggest issue, we go ahead and recruit 2 Mustangs and tech range enhancement. In addition, since we saw them use a mobile beacon last time, we're going to recruit some Fangs and place them in the path. Now looking at the Wasps, I did notice that they had jump drive available, so I did consider the possibility of them moving to somewhere else in the flank or switching sides completely. In order to try and deal with that, we're going to go ahead and place a missile on each of our flanks. Now if my opponent doesn't move these Wasps, this missile should hit all of them and either potentially wipe them all out or slow them down long enough for my units to do their job. And we can see the missile does hit all but maybe 4 or 5 Wasps there. And with that flank taken care of, we can just see my army doing its job, doing a beautiful job really. And the composition is just starting to finally melt together here in these last 2 rounds. Or I guess the last 3 rounds. And just like that, we close out the game in round 9. This was a really unique game for me. I think maybe the 3rd time I've used fortresses at all this season. And I think if we look at these units, a lot of them just did really well in general. I mean, this Phoenix that I bought round 2 did an amazing job. These Hounds did a great job. Even the Force did quite a bit of damage. So yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun, I think. Probably one of the more unique games, since I'm used to seeing a lot of Titans, a lot of Titan spam, you know, a lot of Sabers, a lot of Spiders. And so I thought I'd share this with you guys. I hope you guys had as much fun watching it as I did playing it. But yeah, that's all for now. If you if you enjoyed the content, consider liking, subscribing. If you have any thoughts or comments, let me know down below. But yeah, and if you want to see me play live, follow me on Twitch. But for now, I'll catch you guys later, and I'll see you guys the next video.